And good day again, everyone that's joining us. This is the FOLIO roadmap update for the Bellis release. It's about 1 minute until the top of the hour, and I see the attendees are coming in. We do expect to get close to our maximum webinar limit today. So we are also simulcasting on the Open Library Foundation YouTube channel. So if you know of others that are interested in the roadmap update and demo, you can direct them there. And of course, we'll be posting a recording of this session later today on that same channel. And we have reached the top of the hour. We might switch the order of things because one of our co-presenters, Harry Kaplanian, isn't here yet. Would that be okay, Theodore and Lisa, if we did that?
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started then. Good day, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's FOLIO Forum, which is sponsored by the Open Library Environment, EBSCO, and Index Data. My name is Peter Murray, and I'm the open source community advocate at Index Data and the host for today's event. Our topic today is the FOLIO roadmap update and demo for the Bellis release. Today's session, like all FOLIO forums, is being recorded and will be posted to the Open Library Foundation's YouTube channel and to the resources section of folio.org. As an open forum, participants can see names of each other and any questions that are submitted. And we have muted everyone except for the speakers to ensure good sound quality. We value your participation and encourage you to engage in this topic. If you're in Zoom, you can use the question box at the bottom of the window to enter questions and comments as they come to you. If you're watching us on YouTube, use the Twitter hashtag FolioForum. I will gather the questions and the speakers will address them at the end of the presentation. We also encourage you to continue the conversation on the FOLIO roadmap update and demo on the FOLIO discussion website, discuss.folio.org. Our speakers today are Harry Kaplanian and Theodore Tolstoy from EBSCO and Lisa Sogren from Chalmers University. We're going to start with Theodore and Lisa, and then we will pass to Harry. Take it away.
Okay, I will try. Thank you. I will try to share my screen and do like this. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you for having us. As Peter said, I am Lisa Sjögren. I work as a librarian at Chalmers University of Technology. And I'm working with the FOLIO implementation here and have been doing so for the past 1.5 years. So we are happy to be getting close to the actual going live with FOLIO later this year. And Theodore, do you want to say something about yourself?
Well, I'm an EBSCO employee working as a lead implementation consultant. I'm working with you guys to help make it all happen. I don't know. Yeah. I think we should just dive into what we're presenting.
Yes, and yeah, so the topic of this forum is the Bellis release. So what we want to do is show that from the Chalmers perspective. We have our own tenant with our data and some users, real and fake, that we've been testing and playing around with. So So we're going to take you through the basic workflows of getting bibliographic data into Folio users and doing circulation, basically, and explain how that works. So first, just a few facts about Chalmers, in case you don't know what that is. So we're a university in Sweden, science and technology. We have 13 departments and almost 10,000 students, a little over 3,000 staff in round numbers. The library employs around 35 librarians, 15 other specialists like bibliometricians. We have some developers at the library as well. We have about 14,000 patrons in our ILS, and what's worth noting is that we only, those library accounts that those patrons, that's only used for borrowing print material. So if you look at our patrons for our users for electronic materials, that's actually all those 9,000, 3,000 staff and students. So that's more. And our catalog consists of about 260,000 print resources. So not a huge amount. And really, most of our budget goes to purchasing electronic resources. So electronic resource management is really important to us, even though we're not going to be demoing that today. And yeah, as you can see here as well, in 2018, we had about 22,000 checkouts, which is not a huge number either. And we are one of 3 libraries who are working with EBSCO to implement Folio with services from EBSCO. And yeah, so let's get started. So first, we need to get the books into Folio. And for us, the cataloging workflow doesn't actually start in Folio. It starts in the Swedish Union catalog, which is called Libris XL. And the Union catalog, it's a collaboration between about 500 Swedish libraries. So we have a lot of colleagues to collaborate with there, and whose knowledge and expertise we can use and give back to. And Libris is also from since last summer, it's linked data native, which makes it really interesting. It's using a BibFrame2 based format, and also the cataloging tool is completely mark free. So when we catalog in Libris, we don't have to think about the mark fields or anything. So what we do is we create instances in Libris. So that is where the bibliographic data is. What is this book about? What's the title, etc., etc. And then when we get the instance into Folio, we add the holdings and the items there. So that's information about how many copies do we have? Where are they in our library? So that kind of more circulation management related information, that's what we work with in Folio. We don't want to do anything with these instances in Folio. So we do all that work in Libris. And I'm going to show you how that works. So let's see. Okay. So I have this book. I will start actually by checking that we don't have it already in Folio inventory. So Folio inventory, that's our catalog. That's our print catalog in Folio. So I'm going to show you that it's not there, so you can trust me that I'm getting it in there through this process. So it's not there. So I want to go to Libris and see if anyone else has already cataloged it, because in really most cases, that's what happens. So we can add some data if we want to, but we don't have to do a lot. And oh, I already looked for it. So here it is. This is the one I want to use. So this looks wonderful. Someone's done a very good job. So I just need to tell Libris that we have this book in our collections. So I'm going to add a very, very summary holdings record and save that. I will go back to the instance record. And now I am going to click this little magic button here and we'll see what happens. Something is happening. Yes. And as you can see here, I am now in Folio. And not only am I in Folio, but so is the instance that we were looking at in Libris. So you can see the data from Libris has gotten imported into here. We don't have all the data that was in Libris because what we've said is that we're going to import the stuff that we need for the basic management and circulation. And just focus on what is important, what is needed. And so here I will add a holdings record. So here we have a lot of fields that we could use, but I'm going to keep this very simple as well. So I will add a location, and I know it's this one. I will also add a call number. So this is a very short name of the shelf, and I will add the name of the author here. So it's the sorting on the shelf. And that should be it. Okay, create new holdings record. Yes. So you can see here we have the holding. And I will add an item as well. So you could add several items to one holdings record, but I only have one right now. So I'm gonna first add the barcode here. And then I will add a material type. We actually have only one here because we've decided that this is something that we do not really need to specify on the item level because we have similar data on the instance level. I'm just going to make that easy. And then we need to add a loan type. This is something that we're using more actively. So this is what says what this is eventually going to decide what you can do with this item as a patron. So, and we don't actually need to add a location because that will be inherited from the holdings record as will the call number. So there's a lot of choice here, a lot of different fields that you could use, but we want to use these ones. See? Okay, so there we have an item as well. So this is now ready to be checked out. And as you can see, the going from Libris to Folio, getting the data from Libris to Folio worked really fast, quite like magic. Can you tell us more about that, Theodore?
Yeah, so actually there is no magic involved, only a very nice bookmarklet and a very nice system that your developers have helped with developing. So could you go to the next slide, Lisa?
Oh, this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens when Lisa presses that magic button? That bookmarklet, oh, we can actually go to the next slide, looks for the instance ID on the Libris record. And I'm going to request control so you can see my mouse. You can see my mouse now, right? Yeah. So that Libris ID, the instance ID, is then sent to this system that sits between Libris and Folio. And this system checks Folio if that basically does the same check that you did manually in the UI. So does this Libris ID exist in Folio? Libris responds with a no, and Xiaomi, as we call these systems, makes a OAI PMH request to Libris and ask for that instance record in MarkXML format. Libris converts the RDF graph into a MarkXML representation of it and returns the instance in MarkXML to Xiaomi. Xiaomi in turn converts the Libris instance to a FOLIO inventory instance record and posts this record into FOLIO. Then Xiaomi just makes sure that this newly created record actually exists, that everything goes well, and hopefully FOLIO responds with yes, and that lets Xiaomi talk to the bookmarklet again, who in turn redirects the browser into FOLIO, and that would happen there. So almost like magic. Over to you, Lisa. You're on mute.
Thank you for pointing out that I was on mute, Theodore. Now we have we know how to get the books into FOLIO. So for something to happen, we also need users. We need staff users who can work with FOLIO, work within FOLIO, and we need patron users who can borrow the books. And in FOLIO, those are all in the users app. And the difference between staff and patron will actually be that the staff users have permissions assigned that let them do things within FOLIO, like acquire a book or check something out or anything, and the patrons don't have that. But a staff user could also be a patron, and then they would see their permissions and their loans in the same app. So for staff users, we're going to use a single sign-on login. So that's talking to our local systems at Chalmers, which is, I mean, a lot of the things we're talking about here is how we have integrated FOLIO with other systems. So that's very important, and that's something that is important for us to be able to do with FOLIO, and one of the positive things about FOLIO. And for patron users, we want them to be able to register themselves on the web. So we are in the process of making a custom registration form, which also talks to the central user database. So we will get some data from there. And when we've looked at how we want to use the users app in FOLIO, we've started looking at what data we keep about our patron users right now in our ILS. And GDPR has, which if you're European, you've heard of the General Data Protection Regulation. It has made us think about how we can minimize the amount of data that we save about patrons. So we've looked at what do we actually need. And we realized that things like addresses, postal addresses, and phone numbers is something we very rarely use. And when we do, we could actually look it up at that point. So we're going to try to have very minimalistic user records. And I am going to show you how to create a user. Let's see. That's that one. So normally a patron would register themselves on the web, but you could also do it within FOLIO. So I would go to the users app, which is here, and I could click new. So I'm going to register this person, and she will have a barcode on patron card. see. She will be of the patron group staff because she's a Chalmers employee. She's not library staff, but she's a researcher here. Let's see. The most important thing is here that she gets an email address so we can contact her if she needs to return a book or if she to send her checkout receipt or anything. So I'm going to give her my email address now for demoing purposes. Let's see. This is really what we need right now. Okay, so there we have this new user, and we will get back to her later. So let's see. I'm going to go back to the slides. And so while the staff users, they will be working within FOLIO, the patrons will never actually see the inside of the FOLIO system. So they will see everything through our discovery service, which is right now EDS. In theory, you could, of course, connect FOLIO to your discovery service of choice, or you could have an OPAC. There is no built-in OPAC in FOLIO, but there could be an app. Or someone could make an app for that. But we want to use the discovery service. It's important that our users have a uniform and seamless experience where they don't have to move between systems while they're looking for their information, for their articles, for their books. So if a user were looking for the book that we cataloged just now, they would go to EDS and it would look something like this with a bit more Chalmers branding. This image is from our test integration between FOLIO and EDS. So you would find the book, and here's a little square with real-time availability information. So there you also have the location. This is the shelf, actually, and here it says that the item is available. And I will let Theodore talk a bit more about how this integration is going to work.
Yes, we actually got it to work just a couple of days ago, so that screenshot is not entirely necessary these days. It's good. Oh, I'm going to request your control again. Right. Hope everyone can see my mouse. So for the bibliographic data flow, it's we were aiming for a mark-free environment. We are now looking towards a heavily mark-reduced architecture here as well. As it seems now, FOLIO will be almost entirely mark-free. There are a couple of records that are not yet in Libris that we will have in FOLIO for some time to test, and also to test FOLIO's mark capabilities out. But apart from that, there is nothing, no mark needed for FOLIO to run, and that's a great step forward, I think. Also, we are looking at this architecture where Libris is the main source of bibliographic information, and we harvest Libris and put that data in full into EBSCO, EDS, EBSCO Discovery Service. And this Xiaomi application that I showed you, the bookmarklet, that harvest, one part of it is the individual record import that you saw, but also we will do nightly or even more often have refresh the data in FOLIO or update it too, so it's continuously up to date there. We think that this architecture is, is the best one here, because we add the rich data where it's needed for discovery, and we reduce the amount of data that can get outdated or needs to be up to date. And since Libris is moving, I'm not sure, maybe not moving away from the same definitions, but there is a data loss when you convert BibFrame to Mark 21, and that loss would propagate if you would take that too long, I think. So it's perfect that we keep try to keep the records in folio inventory in less detail and just above the enough to manage these resources in an efficient manner. Some people know that EDS can harvest OAI PMH, and you don't have to rely on FTP. There are various things in here that there are more modern ways of doing this, but since Libris is a bit, it's still early days for the new system, we decided to stick with workflows that we know work reliably and so on. And what's the RTAC call here into folio inventory that we just got to work is what keeps it all, connects it all together. So I don't know. Let me try to go to the next slide here. Keeping this architecture is also good because I think there are a few initiatives now where the discovery services are connected, are going towards linked data. They're trying to involve linked data in one way or another. And I think having that connection between Libris directly keeps those options open and for innovation there. Also here between Libris and Folio, we, technically we're able to take the RDF graphs from Libris directly and put them into, do the conversion and then put them into Folio. But since it's still early days for Libris, those definitions are still a bit, they could change. BibFrame is just in an early version and so on. So that would put a lot of responsibility to the Chalmers developers to keep up with all the things that happens there. So it's more of a convenience. It would be really cool if we could have, pick the RDF graphs there, but that's how it stands currently. Eventually we'll come back. Yes. It makes it more usable outside of the Libris environment as well currently. So if someone else wants to connect to their union catalog, this is, something that could be shared. Okay, that's what I had to say, I think. Over to you again, Lisa.
Thank you. And I just accidentally skipped over to the next slide. I will do it again. Let's see. There we go. So now we have the books, we have the patrons. They found each other in EDS. So we're going to do some circulating demos. Borrowing, requesting, and returning books. Let's see. I can go over to Folio again. So now we're going to go back to our new patron, Anna. So she found this book, and we're going to check it out in the Folio interface here. Normally, there are two ways to check out a book at Chalmers. You can use the self-checkout kiosk. The patrons can do that by themselves, or they can come up and talk to the librarian who will assist them by doing it this way. So I will scan the patron card here. Yes, that works. Yes, so we can see here she is. And then I will scan the barcode of the book. here you see that the book has been successfully checked out, and a loan policy has been activated. So we know that she will be able to have this book for at the most 90 days. And if someone else requests it, she might have to return it after 14 days. We have a due date here. Yeah, we have the time. We have some more options here if we want to look at more details. We don't need to do that now. So now this is such an interesting book that actually someone else wants to have it. So since it's already checked out, we have to request it. And the easiest way to do that would be to go to inventory. So let's imagine that another patron comes up and asks for this book. Looks like I will have to stall while we wait for inventory to open. Let's see. Okay, so the first hiccup. I'm gonna just try using this instead. So we have the ISBN of the book. We know the patron knows that. They have their course list, so we're gonna search for this. Oh, but that doesn't look good. Darn it. Let's see. I'm gonna try it here instead. Okay, yeah. Oh, and as a side note, this 99,999, that's a bug. We don't have that many records. So things are moving ahead. Things are changing every day. So we have the ISBN. We're going to search for this. Hopefully we'll find it this time. Yes, we did. So now we go down to the item record, and we can see here that it's checked out. So we're going to click here to look at the item. And actually here, we have a button that says new request. So okay, yes, thank goodness. So here is information about the item that we want. We could also have gone directly to the requests app, which is also where you see all outstanding requests. And we could have gone there and entered a barcode here and done it that way. But I think this is more typical of what we would do. And we would also give patrons the ability to request books through EDS. That's gonna happen soon. We're working on that. So this is going to be a recall request, meaning that the patron who has it will have to return it straight away. And let's see. And we're gonna enter a new patron barcode here. And now I have something in the way on my screen. Okay, there. So we will select a pickup service point. So that's where the patron wants to pick this book up. We're gonna select this one. It's our main library. And then we click new request. Yeah, so now we've created a new request, and what will happen is that the first patron, she will get an email saying that that she needs to return the book, or she will get it soon. She will get a shorter due date, which also reminds me that I forgot to show you the checkout receipt that she got when she checked the book out. I can do that now. So this is the checkout receipt. Let's see. So say that she has actually finished reading this book. So she will come back to the library and she is checking it in. So you have the check-in app and you scan the barcode of the item. And there we go. And here's a pop-up window, which tells us that this book is awaiting pickup by another patron. So we need to place it on the hold shelf. And here we can choose if we want to print a slip to put in the book with the name of the next patron, of the requester. I'm gonna try that, and let's see. Okay, that didn't work very well on my computer, but what you saw, it's very short glimpse of, was the actual hold slip that we will be able to print on our receipt printer that I don't have at my computer here, and then we will put in the book so that we can find it. So that was what it looks like. So we're just gonna have look as well at how this works, which are the settings that make this possible. So what you have is circulation rules, which tells you that when a patron has a certain patron group assigned to them, it could be student, staff. When this patron wants to borrow an item which has a certain loan type assigned to it, then a certain loan policy is activated, a certain request policy, and a certain notice policy. So it's the relationship between these two that decides these. And I am going to show you what that looks like in FOLIO. So here in the settings app, which is, you can find it there, we go to circulation and circulation rules. So this is the circulation rules editor. Each line is a rule. And let's see. So this little blue text with two heads or two busts, that represents the patron groups. And it has sort of a hierarchical concept here. So this means that this line is true for all of these since it's not indented. And what this says is that this is all patron groups. So for all patron groups and for the loan type normal, these policies will be activated. So you have the standard loan policy, this requesting policy, and you have this notice policy. This is the one that was used when we checked out a book just before. And then we have a special rule for course books, one for like phone chargers and other things. We have some books that don't circulate, that are reference, and we have one special patron group here. But as you can see, we don't have that many rules. We try to have the same rules for all patrons. And this is something that we have been, that we've looked at a lot when preparing for this implementations. We've gone through what we have in our current ILS, which rules are actually in use, which are just mysteriously there, which are in use but have no items or so we're just leaving a lot of things that we don't want behind in this move to FOLIO, and we're trying to keep it really simple so that it will be easy both for the staff and especially for the patrons to understand why does this happen? Why can I have this book? So yeah, simple rules. We'll see if we can keep it this simple, but we're gonna try. And speaking of simplicity, me and my systems librarian colleague really like this circulation rules editor. We think it's really easy to use when you get the hang of it. You need to look at the documentation, but then you have everything in the same place. It's great. But you might want to find out more about, for example, what does standard loan type mean? And then standard loan policy mean? And then you would go here and look at the loan policies, and you have it here. And you can see that this is where it says how long is the loan period, how many times can a patron renew this item, what happens when it's recalled, how long can you have it then? So these kinds of things. And you have the notice templates. It's similar. You have, I think, let's see, I think this is the one, oh, sorry, the notice policies. This is one that we use. And this is connected to a notice template. So this is what the emails that patrons get when something happens, when they need to be told something. For instance, that they need to return a book. And we have the request policies, which say, I think it's, let's see, yeah, which kinds of requests are allowed for this patron and loan type combination. And if we go back to this, we're just using patron and loan type right now, but there are other parameters that you could use, like material type. That's the one we only had one of, so we're not going to use that. So there's like, you can make these quite complex, and you can have a lot of them. You could filter them if you had a lot, but we're going to try to keep it this way. Let's see. So that's what I had to say about that. And now we've seen the book get into FOLIO. We've seen the patrons, and we've seen the whole circulation cycle. So actually, that was it for our demo. Thank you so much for listening and looking. And I think we would be happy to answer questions if there's time for that. Peter can chime in or comments. And otherwise, you can, of course, contact us. Our email addresses are here. And you can also find us on the FOLIO Slack. So.
Great. Yes. Well, yes. Thank you very much for walking us through that. We did get some interesting questions from our participants. One that came in was all of the systems we've worked with have false positives. And this question goes back to the point where you were importing a record from Libris into FOLIO. The systems think something is a duplicate when it really isn't. Can you force FOLIO to accept the title from Libris that FOLIO mistakenly believes is already held?
Well, the cure for that, I think, is the Libris ID. That is that's a URI, right? It's a universal resource locator. It's not an integer stored somewhere that could be mistakenly taken for another ID of sorts. So, and they have put a lot of effort in making those truly, unique on the internet. So that's hopefully our architecture. It's built on that, and hopefully that's the way they are going to be treated. I think that's the short answer.
Yeah, so we're not trying to match on ISBNs or anything like that. No. It's just the Libris ID, so that should be the same as the one in Libris, since we're not changing anything in FOLIO.
So it's almost a one-way enforced. There's nothing that's no chance to have a duplicate in FOLIO that doesn't come from Libris itself. Never mind.
No.
Well, I mean, okay, if the record comes from Libris, then we should not be able to import it twice. We should only be able to have one. So that's the answer.
Great. Another question: is there a way to batch load users into the system?
There are a couple of ways, but at present, I think there is some work being done in this area. There are, I should have known more how far they are. There is a users importing module that has a nice API, and it leverages you know, it reduces lowers the threshold for a lot of things that comes with adding users into Folio. There are improvements for Chalmers. Using that, it takes, maybe I shouldn't guess too much. I have that, but it takes a couple of hours to add those. How much is it? 12,000 users, and so it can be done overnight for most systems, I think, to migrate a lot of users. So I think for users, that's fast enough. What the community is working with is to have, you know, loaders for bibliographic records and such, where you're looking at millions of records that you want to, you know, be able to process. Currently, we have to go through different, you know, take shortcuts and go into the database and so on. But it's being worked on. I'm sorry I don't know, you know, the current state of it, because we rely on these shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Another question. As a MARC cataloger, I'm intrigued by the possibility of less MARC. Could you discuss a little where you feel MARC is over-efforting?
That's a word. Over-efforting.
Over-efforting
Wow.
is the word that they used.
Could you elaborate on that? With
maybe too much effort that MARC is.
Well, spontaneous. I'm just thinking about all the fields. While Libris was not linked data, so like a few years ago, we were still doing our cataloging there. So, and that's where I started doing cataloging. All the fields that we would just not think about. It's like I don't remember what you call them. That like the numbers, like the leader, the 008, where you have sometimes the same information there, and you have it in the numbered fields. But in the practice is actually to just put it in one place, maybe, or you double it. And there were so many things that we just never used. But we sort of had to add a value because there had to be something. So it wasn't really correct. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, that there's a lot of double information.
Yeah, I agree. You know, you have these very, what you call it, ways of saying that database, this is something, you know, this kind of resource, you can put that in the 08. But still, you just keep on adding all these text strings telling you that in one language that this is a database, but then you're in Sweden and, you know, you have to put at least 2 strings, and we have like 4 official languages, so you should put 4 strings in there. When you have this little code that the OPAC could have, you know, interpreted. So that's what Libris is, you know, coming to, like, replace all of that with a link, and if you follow that link, you will get that string expressed in all the languages, you know, in the world, and then we can talk about, you know, that's.
And you would only have to, if you wanted to change that data, you would have to change it in one place, and then would be linked to different places.
So
Sticking with cataloging, Brian Watson and I had a bit of a back and forth about when the slide about the bibliographic data flow and the EBSCO knowledge graph pilot were up on the screen. And as part of our back and forth, we talked about some of the underpinnings of linked data in the FOLIO reference, the FOLIO data model. And he was curious about whether about using other linked data alongside the EBSCO knowledge graph, Wikidata, Homosaurus, etc., as the name authority. I know that linked data that you know we've designed Folio to be linked data ready, but we haven't built some of those linked data components. Do you have any thoughts about where linked data is fitting into your vision of cataloging between Libris and Folio?
Well, I think first of all, when it comes to the instances and probably the authority data, I think we would have to that would have to happen in Libris first, or I would prefer that. I mean, I really want Libris to be really developed because, yeah. So, Theodore, do you have any good thoughts?
Well, what is just you know, from the top of my head, where I see it could be really useful is when you would like to look at multiple. I don't know if you have looked into that codex vision that Vince shared,
Yeah.
and that's where it really comes into play, right? Where you can most likely pull in, like, you have the knowledge bases, like multiple ones, multiple. You have the union catalog, not just what you have, but also what's available to you, and perhaps also the vendors' catalogs. And by, you know, then you need some authority data to connect that all together. And if you can achieve that, then you can really start doing, you know, overlap analysis and all of that. So that's where I would like it to go, right? We haven't been too involved in the cataloging parts of Folio because we have other focus areas, but
of course, I mean,
of course it plays in there, you know, with authority data is like, that's the solution for so much in cataloging, where you know, you have all these duplicates or almost duplicate strings where
and since Folio doesn't require MARC, you have the MARC cataloging app that is coming up. You could also have a BibFrame cataloging app. So I mean, it could come into play very tangibly there, and we would like to see that happen. We would still be working with Libris. I mean, that's our cataloging app right now, our BibFrame cataloging app. But I mean, I'm very much looking forward to seeing live linked data applications and initiatives to see, like, how can it be used, and I think it kind of needs that to take flight and to be something tangible that people who work in the systems can actually see and trust. And I just want everything. I just want technology to make everything easier and more efficient, so that I don't have to change things in different places, the same thing, because I know that's not going to happen. People are going to forget to change something there. So we need the computers to make that connection and help us with that.
That's a good point, Lisa. Bringing up the fact that the app-based model anticipates, well, we know MarkCat is coming. That's being developed right now, but it anticipates a BibFrame cat. It anticipates a Dublin Core cat.
You could go beyond, like, libraries, and it could be something for, I don't know, museums, other cultural heritage institutions.
And where we would leverage the inventory app to keep track of our instances and items, that kind of BibFrame app might refer to linked data that's being curated outside our Folio system. Yep. Another question, is it possible to delete loan policies and notice rules?
Yeah, is the person who asked this coming from Sierra. In our current list, we can't
tell.
delete. But wow. Let's see. Okay, there are two parts of this question. Is there a delete button right now? Has that been implemented yet? And is it possible? Should I look?
This sounds like it's a pretty specific question.
Yeah.
I know I've seen, so I help manage the translation strings, and I know I've seen translation strings come through our localization platform that say you can't delete this loan policy because it's in use.
Yeah, that
sort of leads me to believe that there is a delete function that is checking.
There is a delete function, and I'm gonna be updating our system soon, so I'm just gonna try to delete one that I know is in use and see what happens. Okay, then okay. I'm not gonna tell you what happened.
A live trial, yes.
So I think that needs some developing, but yes, it's possible.
There's a question here that I think I'll answer, and that is FOLIO being used in a consortium setting? And if so, what's the largest? Because I don't believe Chalmers is part of a consortium, but there is a consortium special interest group that is very active, and two of our as in the communities, implementations are going to be consortia. One is the 5 colleges in Massachusetts, for which EBSCO is doing the implementation. And the second is a series of colleges in the Boston area, the Fenway Library Organization, for which Index Data is doing the implementation. So there are 2 active consortia that are implementing FOLIO, that are getting ready to implement FOLIO. Chalmers isn't one of them, but if to the person who asked that question, if that's of interest to you, encourage you to look at the consortial special interest group on the FOLIO wiki, and the consortial special interest group meets on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern US time, if that's of interest to you.
Chalmers is, of course, part of different consortia. They have an electronic buying consortia, and I visited them a couple of weeks ago, and they were thrilled to see that their metadata was flowing into the ERM parts of FOLIO and so on. So that's another discussion, of course. But and also what Lisa showed here is that's the bibliographic consortia of sorts. So you can absolutely be part of the consortia. But yeah, that's not the question. But I just want to elaborate on it.
Thank you. Yep. Another question: is there an acquisitions module? Is Chalmers is acquisitions a part of
Yes.
the Chalmers implementation?
Yes. So I think, let's see. So the acquisitions functionality is split up into a couple of different modules or apps. So you have the orders app, you have the organizations apps. I think that's the ones we'll be using for acquisitions. So you make purchase orders and you connect them to organizations, which are vendors. Then there will also be a finance app, which could be part of that, but that we are not using because we have a central finance system at Chalmers. So absolutely there are. We just didn't show them today, but it's looking good.
There are some demos. There was a demonstration of the electronic resource management modules as a FOLIO forum a month or 2 ago. And so there's a recording of that on the Open Library Foundation YouTube channel that you can go back and watch.
Yeah, there are a lot of nice things coming very soon. I think, we were anticipating having EDI as a part of the implementation, but the Swedish vendors are in transition mode as well for their infrastructure. So we're not able to hook up to their system, at go live. Did you mention the check-in functionality?
No, I did not. Yes,
that's also part of that we will use for
So check-in of
for serials,
ongoing resources. So it's not the same as checking in a book that was checked out. This is such confusing terminology. That is going to be reproduced in Folio. We can have a discussion about that sometime. Yeah.
We might have to have you back.
Yes, for that debate. Should we use the word check-in for two things? Yeah.
Does authority data reside in Folio, or are headings only controlled via linked data? In Libris, the records that you saw, those are, then we use the string representations of the data. In Libris, it's all links, right? And those links can be serialized into strings. And we are using the Mark serialization, Mark 21 serialization version of those links. So there is no authority data and in Folio at this.
But yeah, I think work with the Mark cataloging app. I think that I know if it's going to lead to, or if it's already, if they're working on authorities as well.
Yeah.
Because I haven't been keeping up with that enough since we're not going to use it. But I think that's definitely part of that work. But that will be Mark authorities then.
I want, with some embarrassment, to go back to the previous question about consortia, because of course, in my US-centric brain, I missed the fact that of the German consortia, GBV and HBZ are large service utilities in Germany, and they are members of OLE and very active in the development of Folio as something to be implemented for their members. And so I apologize to my colleagues from Germany for forgetting to name you as part of that consortia answer. Can institutions use alternative union catalogs? For instance, WorldCat or COPAC, I'm not familiar with COPAC, over Libris?
So yeah, this is one of the advantages of us not going the full length of taking those RDF graphs and turning them into Folio. So what we are doing, we're looking at the regular OAI PMH bibliographic feed in Mark XML format. So basically, any catalog that has OAI PMH server functionality could be a source for Folio. That's on an architectural level. There are some specifics here for Chalmers, but that could be that could be developed so it could be handled for multiple institutions and so on. So this is a Chalmers project currently that have been developed with help from EBSCO, me and a couple of others, and that was developed with the intent of releasing it open source. Of course, it's under heavy development and we're still working on it right now. So but in due time, that's something that we could share.
Speaking to the community aspect of Folio.
Yeah, it would be a great contribution from Chalmers doing that. But yeah, they are certainly busy doing. We have that user registration app and so on. So there will be artifacts here that I think you will share, right, Lisa? And
we want to do that. Yeah.
But we have the goal target here in our sites first, and
have to make it live first.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So early on, Lisa, you mentioned integration with a single sign-on environment, and there's a question: is there integration with Google User Management App or an LDAP connector?
I think I want to bounce the question over to Theodore.
Well, the authentication for FOLIO is SAML based. So if you're a SAML, if you have a SAML compliant login service, then you should be fine. I think that SAML, there's a SAML module basically, and you could have a look in that, and I'm pretty sure it would be possible to adopt that to something else as well. But that's how it works currently. For end users, we are relying on EDS capabilities there. There are SAML, there are a couple of, options there, and of course you can connect that to Open Athens and similar things as well. And then you have the whole world open to you. So yeah.
Yeah, it's also, I think, possible to plug something else in like LDAP, because the SAML authentication is just another module. And so I'm not sure the logistics of doing something, but maybe swapping out SAML and putting in an LDAP module in its place might be possible as well.
Yeah. There are middleware that could make SAML could make your service act as a SAML compliant server or client as well. So it's possible. But we should go back to the fact that end users, or maybe at least for Chalmers, they will not authenticate themselves through FOLIO, but more rather than through EDS. So it's just an ID, and so.
Great. Does Chalmers have any reporting apps set up in FOLIO? I don't know if you're ready to talk about FOLIO. I have a feeling that reporting is a FOLIO forum all to itself. And so feel free to, as one might say, punt on that question, and maybe we can tackle that in a future forum.
I think so. There are, I'm not up to date to that. I think FSE, like the EBSCO offering, will come up with some reporting offering, and that might or might not be the same as the but that's another issue. That's
fair enough.
Yes.
Yep. How granular can the circulation policies be configured? Patron type, library location, format?
Yes, let's see. So patron type.
Maybe you could share that editor.
Yeah. The thing is, let's see where I have it. I'm saying it's so easy to use, this editor, but it's also you don't really see what it's called. So this is it's kind of hard to see. So this is a patron group. This is the material type that we are not really working with. To be honest, I don't remember what the others are, but it's basically I think it's locations material type patron groups, and we could actually look just for a moment at the locations. Oh, it's not okay. I don't have permission to look at that right now.
With your login.
Which also control what you can see here, because that changed with an update a while ago. If you can see that, but the locations are hierarchical. So you have like a institutional location, and then within that you have a campus, and I will be able to show you this another way, I hope. So what I want to say is that when I say that you can have location in the Lonos, that could actually be a couple of different, okay, no, I'm in the wrong place. A couple of different locations or different levels. But we haven't really looked at that lately, since we're pretty happy with just having the loan type and the patron, because we've just realized that we can actually, no, I'm just going to give up doing this because I'm clicking the wrong thing. I can't.
I'm sorry.
But we're happy what we can do with that, because we realize that it's actually enough. So, and it's easy.
I think what you can do, you can also do like very broad definitions at first, and then you can, go into detail, because these rules are inheriting each other. So you can like get very specific, and you can still have like these broad overall rules. So it opens for a lot of, and also due to the fact that you have a lot of levels in the location hierarchy, you don't have to, we have seen some pretty extensive loan rules where you have a lot of locations, and then you have to define, your loan rules for each and every location, and that matrix get pretty quickly pretty, large. I think I heard numbers like 1,000 loan rules, but that's if you have 100 locations that, that builds pretty quickly. So I think in this case, where you have a hierarchy of locations and so on, then you can be very expressive in a lot less language there.
And I wish I could share a good link to a documentation about the loan rules editor. But it does take a few minutes to understand how the loan rules are built up. But when you do, they're very logical.
We should also raise that it has turned into a circulations editor as well, right? Because you have also notices, the rules for notices, and for what am I missing?
Requests.
Requests. Oh,
yes.
Yeah. So that's part of that matrix as well.
In one place, which is one of the great things, I think.
Scary, and also very powerful.
Great. I think we've got one more question that might lead us into a brief roadmap update. And that is Chalmers using FOLIO in production? Give us an update on your go live plans.
Well, this year, and it's almost summer, so the second half of this year, autumn. So right now we are testing. So we have a tenant where we have the bibliographic data, we have loaded users into it, we have test migrated some loans, and when I say we, in this case, I mean Theodore, and he's been doing all that. So we're doing. We're testing the migration. We are testing the functionality. We are doing some tests with our staff, letting them try it out. We are waiting for some functionality which will show up, and we are, doing a lot of testing, a lot of noticing some bugs and want to get rid of that as soon as possible. So I think that was a long answer to that. Yes or no question.
Exactly. And I do apologize on behalf of Harry. I'm not sure why he didn't join the webinar today to give a roadmap update. Those that have been in or tracking the FOLIO project for a long time know that Harry is kind of the person in the project who's taken on the role of keeping the roadmap up to date, and so he is the person most versed in the current state of the roadmap. But I can give a little bit of an update, and that is that the demo today has been based on the Bellis release that Chalmers and EBSCO have been working with. We are right now in development of the Clover release, which is geared towards stabilizing the APIs and working through performance issues, getting the performance to the place that we want it, and working out some of the final defects. Some of those we tripped up today, and if there aren't issues logged for those already, I expect shortly after the conclusion of this webinar, somebody will log those issues for us to work on. That Clover release is thought to be our first library release, the one that we're gearing up for Chalmers to run in production. There's also continuing work on invoices and the funds app, additional import features, and additional external integrations with OEI PMH, with SIP and NSIP. I think Z3950 also falls into that category. So how FOLIO will interoperate in an ecosystem. In the third quarter, we are looking at the DAISY release, which is kind of what we're calling the early adopter developer version of the software. It has more things in it than Chalmers is using as part of their go live. And right now, the developers and the product owners and the first implementers are working through a prioritization process to determine what's going to be worked on in the third quarter of 2019. There's an update that's happening at the Product Council meeting tomorrow, scheduled for tomorrow morning Eastern US time, where the results of that are going to be talked about. But we expect things like advanced circulation features, acquisitions, license contracts and package management, batch operations, reporting tools, additional external integrations, additional work on reporting and analytics. The fourth quarter is the Edelweiss. I need to get a German accent in there, I think. Early adopter beta 1, which is going to be focused on the next round of libraries, a round of stabilization and performance focus. Looking at multi-tenant consortial features and single tenant consortial features, because of course the 5 colleges and Fenway Library organization are going to be part of those early adopters. First quarter of 2020 is the Flameflower release. In case you haven't noticed a pattern here, our releases are based on flower names, and we're marching through the alphabet from A to Z. So Aster, Bellis, Clover, Daisy, Edelweiss, Flameflower is our first quarter of 2020 release. And here things get a little murkier because it is so far out there. When Harry gives a presentation, he talks about the cone of uncertainty in planning, and we're very much in the wide part of the cone of uncertainty as we're planning for the first quarter of 2020. The uncertainty comes from who's stepping up to be a part of, to adopt FOLIO, to make it their library system, what their needs are in a gap analysis. So what is it that we need to work on to have them go forward? And all of that's leading to the second quarter 2020, what we're thinking of as the general release or the goldenrod release of FOLIO. This graphic is on the FOLIO wiki, and in fact, if you go to the top bar on most of the FOLIO websites, and I think it's under About This Project, there's a link to the platform and roadmap. And so we'll update this as time goes on with additional points from our plans for the roadmap update. And on behalf of Harry, I'm going to apologize again. I'm not sure where Harry is, but I'm sure if he was here, he would apologize as well. I'm going to pop into our questions to see if there's anything else that we might want to answer. There is a question about a report about the single sign-on with all of the technical details. Theodore, I'm not going to put you on the spot for that, but there is some documentation in the SAML GitHub repository, and so if you want to get technical, maybe it is you have to go to the GitHub repository and see what's there. Anything you might want to add, though, Theodore?
No, that would be my go-to.
Yep. And of course, come into the community and ask questions. That can be done in Slack or on discuss.folio.org. This is a community effort, so come join the community in the discussion as we build FOLIO. Any parting thoughts, Lisa and Theodore?
Not really, but it was fun to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, happy to. We've seen some of the other apps, walkthroughs of them, and we haven't seen anything from circulation in a while. So it was great, Lisa, to walk through that and show the current status of what that looks like.
Yeah, and
we.
yeah, I just want to say that if anyone has any more questions, get in touch.
Very generous of you. Thank you. This concludes today's FOLIO forum on the roadmap update and demo for the Bellis release. We've been live tweeting the forum. For a short recap of links to resources, look for the FOLIO forum hashtag from the FOLIO_LSP Twitter account. And as always, thank you to the social media team from EBSCO for that live tweeting. The recording of today's forum will be posted to the Open Library Foundation's YouTube channel shortly. And also, if you're interested in demos of other FOLIO library service platform apps, such as MarkCat, ERM, the usage app, you can also find those on the Foundation's YouTube channel. Look for the FOLIO forum playlist. Thank you to our speakers, Theodore and Lisa, and to everyone who asked questions and added comments. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Really good questions, too.
Yeah.
All right, let me close it down here. Thanks, everyone.